In 1914, in the coal fields of southern Colorado, corporate power declared war on its own workers. On April 20th, militiamen and company guards opened fire on a tent city of striking miners and their families. They burned the camp to the ground, shot at fleeing people, and left women and children to suffocate in pits dug beneath the tents. This was the Ludlow Massacre, not just a tragic accident, but corporate warfare disguised as a labor dispute. A systematic campaign of terror designed to crush the union movement through mass murder. Today, we examine how the Rockefeller-owned Colorado Fuel and Iron Company turned private armies against American workers, the shocking cover-up that followed, and how this violence became a dark tool of industrial capitalism. To understand Ludlow, we must go back to the brutal reality of early 20th century coal mining in Colorado. Miners, many Greek, Italian, Slavic, and Mexican immigrants, faced deadly conditions. Between 1884 and 1912, Colorado's mines killed workers at more than double the national average. Explosions, cave-ins, and disease were constant threats. Men were paid by the ton of coal they produced, but dead work, like timbering roofs, often went unpaid. They lived in company towns where rent, groceries, and even doctors were controlled by the mine owners. Dissent meant eviction. In September 1913, over 10,000 miners, organized by the United Mine Workers of America, UMWA, went on strike. They demanded fair wages, an 8-hour day, the right to unionize, and enforcement of basic safety laws. The response from the companies, led by Colorado Fuel and Iron, CF&I, majority owned by John D. Rockefeller Jr., was ruthless. Strikers and their families were evicted from company housing. They built a massive tent colony at Ludlow to survive the brutal winter. CF&I hired the notorious Baldwin Felts Detective Agency, private gunmen, and pressured the governor to deploy the Colorado National Guard, many of whom were later replaced by company-friendly troops. On the morning of April 20th, after Orthodox Easter celebrations in the camp, tension boiled over. A detachment of National Guard and company guards, armed with machine guns mounted on an armored car nicknamed the Death Special, surrounded the Ludlow tent colony of about 1,200 people. No one knows exactly who fired the first shot, but the militia opened fire. For over 10 to 14 hours, bullets rained down on the tents. Striking leaders, including Greek organizer Louis Tikas, were lured out under false pretenses of a truce and murdered. As ammunition ran low, miners fled into the hills. Women and children hid in shallow pits, dug under their tents for protection. That evening, as the camp emptied, the militia soaked the tents in kerosene and set them ablaze. In one pit, searchers later found the bodies of 2 women and 11 children who had suffocated and burned. In total, around 20 to 25 people died at Ludlow that day, including miners, wives, and children. The horror didn't end there. The massacre sparked 10 days of open warfare across the coal fields, with total deaths in the strike reaching as high as 70 to 200. Public outrage exploded. John D. Rockefeller Jr., who controlled CF&I policy from afar, became the face of the scandal. He had refused to negotiate with the union, viewing it as a threat to property rights. Congress launched investigations. Rockefeller was called to testify. While he expressed regret, he defended the company's hardline stance. Many guardsmen faced court-martial, but were largely exonerated. Hundreds of miners were arrested and tried, but few convictions stuck on either side. The massacre exposed how industrialists could weaponize state power and private militias against workers. It was a brutal reminder that, in the eyes of some capitalists, labor organizing justified lethal force. The Ludlow Massacre did not immediately win the strike. The Union effort was eventually broken, but the national shockwaves were undeniable. It fueled the push for labor reforms, contributed to greater scrutiny of working conditions, and helped pave the way for stronger union protections in the 1930s, including the National Labor Relations Act. Today, the Ludlow site is a National Historic Landmark. It stands as a solemn warning. When corporations treat workers as disposable and government sides with power over people, tragedy follows. The fight at Ludlow was never just about coal. It was about whether American workers would have a voice in the system that profited from their blood and sweat. Their sacrifice reminds us that labor rights were never freely given. They were hard-won, often at an unthinkable cost. Remember Ludlow.